Hello everyone, my name is Hassan Nuruddin, and today I will be guiding you through a couple of steps on how to set up an environment on Docker and how we can create directories, move our CSV files into a Docker container, and moving them from Docker to HDFS to Hadoop, and working on Hive and running some queries. So, just to begin with, let me first run Docker and our CMD, which will be writing in all our commands. Let's first start with Docker login. Let's give it the username. Okay, and the password. Okay, perfect. We've logged in. Now we just need to open Docker. Let's see. Should be running. Okay, so now that we have our Docker running, and we can see that our images are empty and we have no containers. So, to begin with, first, to set up an environment, we're going to need two things. We're going to need a data node and a name node. Well, the name node is just to manage the metadata, and the data node is to actually store the data blocks. So, first thing we will need to do is to pull the image. So this would be Docker pull. We need to give it the name of the image. First, we put in the user that created the image, so that will be BDE 2020, and then we would put in the name node, and here we're gonna need the version. So I've actually set up some codes that I will need, and I hope they're not too much. And we'll just add that here, and now we'll be pulling the name node image. Okay, just had to figure out what was going on here, and I realized I've missed this. Hadoop dash name node, that's the name of the image that we're pulling, and this should be working fine. Okay, and while it downloads, what we'll be doing next is we'll need to pull the data node image, and then we'll need to run both to create the containers. And just before we run them, we'll need to create a network for our containers to be able to communicate. Okay, it should be done soon. Okay, perfect. And just to test to make sure that we've pulled the image, now we can open our Docker. We'll open our images, and now we'll see that here we have our name node that we pulled. There we go, name node. Okay, so now we just need to go back. We're gonna run the same code, but this time we're gonna have our data node, and we're gonna pull this image as well. Okay, perfect. And again, just to verify, we can check here. We have both images. Perfect. Okay, so now we need to create a network. So Docker network create Hadoop-net. But I believe since it is already exists, so what we can do is now we can inspect just to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, so as you can see, we have our containers. It's empty, but our connection is working and it's fine. Okay, and now what we need to do is that we're gonna need to run those two images that we've just retrieved. So to do that, we need to run this code. So what this does is it runs in a detached mode, so it runs in the background so that our CMD is not full of all logs, and we give it the name, which is the name node, and the network that we've just created, or actually just tested. And here are the ports for communication. This is a cluster, so this is a variable, and this is the RPC port to connect. And what else? And yes, and here we give it the image and the version. Okay, so we're gonna run this here. Go back to our CMD. There. Okay, and we of course can test this by going back to Docker. We can check our containers, and now we'll see that we have our name node container and it's running. So we will need to go back and run the code for the data node. And again, just to test, we can see now that we have both the name node and the data node. And since it's a requirement that we create more than one data node, so what we can do is that we can go here and name this data node new, or maybe unused, but yeah. Okay, so as well we can come here and we can see that we've created our second data node. So what we need to do now is we need to create a folder in our name node container, and just a quick preview, we can check what we actually have in our name node container. So we can do docker execute I think so, name node ls. Okay, here we can see all our folders in the name node, and what we need to do is that we need to create a folder that we're gonna save our CSV files in. So what we need to do is docker execute t, and then we say name node make directory, and then we give it the name of the folder, which we will call data. Okay, something's wrong. Okay, so I guess, okay, yeah, since we're not in HDFS yet, there's no need for the dash, so that will be docker execute it name node make directory. We're gonna call this data, not dtaa. Okay, Perfect. And how can we test to see if what we created is there? We can run the same code again here just to show the list. And this time we can see that the data folder has been created. And now what we need to do is we'll need to add our 4 CSV files that we've created previously. And I mean prior the video. So here I have a 4 CSV files. One which is a university list, the second one which is students, majors, and faculty staff. Okay, so what we need to do, we're gonna want to add these 4 CSV files to our data folder that was just created. So how can we do that? We can do that by adding this code, docker cp, which is docker copy, and we need to give it the CSV file that we're moving, so we can do that by dragging and dropping. So let's take this one, the university list, as the first, and we'll need to tell it to place it in the we need to tell it to place it in the name node into the data folder that we've created. So let's run that first. And it's successfully copied. And what we can do now is that we can just change the names here. So that would be faculty underscore staff. That's one. That's been copied. And we also have students. Yes, and we have university list, faculty, staff, students, and majors. Okay, and to check if we've done that correctly, and just to make sure that we have everything done correctly, just to see what's inside our data, can run this code, and now we can see that we have 4 CSV files saved in data. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way to check is that we can open our name node in the container. We can check our files, we can look for data, and there it is, and we can see that now we have 4 CSV files in our data. So now we've moved our data to the container successfully. Now we need to transfer this to our Hadoop. So to do that, we need to first start by creating a directory in Hadoop, which is going to store, it's going to be a main file in Hadoop, a main directory, and inside it we're going to create 4 other directories to save each file in the corresponding directory. So to do that, to start, what we need to do, we need to get back to our CMD here, and we need to create a directory in Hadoop. To do that, we need to do docker execute, okay, it, and then we say name node, and now we're gonna access the HDFS DFS, and now we'll need this mkdir make directory, and we need to give it a name which I will call university. Now we can enter. Perfect, this means it's been created. And again, just to test this, what we can do is docker execute name node HDFS DFS, just to make sure we're in the Hadoop, and then we can say give me a list for everything, just to see everything in our Hadoop. And now we can see that we have the university folder, and now we need to create the other 4 folders, and we can do that by just adding, so here we're gonna have university underscore list. Actually, let me check just to make sure, because I've pre-created the tables, so that will connect them. And just to make sure, yes, my subfolder was university underscore list. So just to not get anything confused, we'll be creating this one, university list. Perfect. Now we need to create another one, so there should be majors. There we go. Students. There we go. And we should have faculty, staff, or maybe just faculty, just to make sure. Yeah, it's faculty. Have faculty. Okay, now let's check to see all what we have for the folders, and this time we'll need to add university just to see what's inside university. Okay, perfect. So now what we can see is we now have university, which is going to be our main folder, and inside university we have faculty, we have majors, we have students, and we have university list. What's next is that we need to save our CSV files. We need to move them from our Docker name node container to our Hadoop. So to do that, we will need to run this code, docker execute name node. Okay, and then HDFS DFS, and then put, and then we give it the path for our CSV in Docker, so that would be data. Let's start with university list, university underscore list dot CSV. If at any time you're not sure of the name, so just to avoid any confusion, you can always go back to your Docker, check the name, and here we can see it's university underscore list dot CSV. So we can go back now to our code. We need to apply this, and where we're gonna move it to is to our Hadoop, which would be university, which is the main folder, into the subfolder. So university list would go into university list, of course. So that would be university underscore list, and then we add the university underscore dot CSV. Okay, now let's try to run this code. Perfect. Now it means that this has been moved into our HDFS, and we can actually test this. So we can come here and we can check into our university underscore list and see what's inside, and now we'll see that it has the replication value of 3, and this is what is inside that we moved. So the next step would be moving the other 4 files. So we'll do that by, well, of course, instead of running all that, we'll just adjust here. So first of all, The first one move was university list. Now let's move students. Students.csv, and this would be moved to the folder students. So students and students.csv. Okay, perfect, that worked as well. And now we'll do majors. Majors. Perfect. Now for the last one. Underscore stuff. And we call the file here faculty. And faculty underscore stuff. Perfect. So just to check we have everything, I'm going to show you another way that we can actually view everything in our university, but in terms of files. So what we can do is just place a star right there. And now we can see all our CSV files in their respective place. And now we can see that we have our replication value of 3, and we will also need to set a replication value of 4 and just test it out. So to do that, what we need to do is docker execute and -it, we give it the name node, and then HDFS DFS, and then we'll need to set the replication value. Okay, and then we give it a value of 4, and we give it a folder, so in our HDFS. So let's pick let's pick the faculty, staff, or majors. Yeah, let's do majors. Less things to write. So university majors.csv. Okay, that should do it. Replication 4 set, waiting. So while it runs, we can explain our next step. Our next step now is we already have our CSV files. We moved them to Docker. We've moved it from Docker to HDFS. Now what we need to do is we'll need to install Hive, and to do that, we're going to need to pull an image first, as usual. And after running the image, we can see that our container has been created and it should be running. And then we'll need to initialize meta service and start the meta service to be able to connect to our Hive. Okay, so I think we can actually stop this. And just to check that it's been replicated to 4, we can run this code again. And as we can see, the majors that we change is now replicated 4 times. And we can apply this. Well, there's another way that of actually dug into, just to be able to see if we can apply this to all at once. This can be done in the XML file where you can see the property names. You can add a property called dfs.replication, and you can give it a value of 4 or 3 or 2 as you wish, and it will apply it to all the folders instead of applying it one by one. Okay, and now we need to pull the image, so we can go docker pull. Again, we'll do BDE 2020. Thank you for these images, and we'll go Hive. This time I don't believe we need a version, so this should be pulling the image for us. Okay, it's working fine. Okay, and if I remember correctly, we needed to delete one of our data nodes, and just to see what happens with the data. So usually what happens is if there's an image related to actually we can scratch that, but what happens is if I wanted to delete a data node, so what I would do is I'll click on it here and delete it. So what happens is anything related to this container is lost. The data is gone and lost forever. So even if you try to delete here, it will come and tell you that the data node container selected for deletion, any anonymous volumes associated with these containers are also deleted. And as you can see here, when you click, it will tell you delete forever. So there's no way of getting this data back. And as data node new was not used, so it shouldn't affect our work in any way. But now we can see that the image pulled has been complete. As you can see, the image is here, and this is how we verify that it's been pulled correctly. And next we'll need to run is the docker run for this image. So this also I have prepared on a side note here. Okay, there we go. This is actually for the data node, so that's not what we need. Okay, so I've just realized that I've copied the running for the data node twice. Okay, so now that we have the Hive run code, we just need to run it to create the container, and now we can go back to our Docker and we can see that the Hive is running. So now we need to change the configuration of the Hive server. So we need to go into our files, we need to go into OPT, okay, Hive configuration, which is here, and then Hive site XML. We'll need to edit this file, and I have it also ready here. So what is this? What this does usually, it allows you to create a database. So it gives a database name. You're gonna give it allow it to be created, I guess. Okay, we're just gonna take that, copy it, and we can come here to the commented tag. We can just remove it all, enter, and just paste it here. So all that really matters is pretty much from configuration to configuration. So if you close that, this is all that really matters, this part. Okay, we can save this now. Okay, and now we need to initialize the metastore schema, so we can take this code right here, and we can go to our CMD. We need to run this. And after now, you can see that the initial script has been completed and the schema tool is completed. So now what we need to do is that we need to start the service, the metastore service. Okay, now we can come here and start the metastore service. And we let it run. This does not stop, so to get out of this page, first we'll need this code, and this will allow us to get the IP address that would allow us to connect to the Hive server. So here we can just press Control C, so it will take us out, or it will stop running here. And we can now check for our IP address that will allow us to connect from the name node to our Hive server. And as you can see here, it's 172.118.0.2, which is the same code that we have here, 172.18.0.2, with the port number that we connect. Okay, and this code now can be used to connect to our Hive. But before we do that, I'd also like to show you the contents of one of our CSV files in Hadoop. So we can do that by running this code, docker execute name node dash HDFS DFS dash cat, and then now we can give it the folder path in Hadoop. So let's say university majors.csv, and this now should be able to show us the contents of what is inside majors. And as we can see now, we have computer science, biology, economics, engineering, so on, all the way down to law. And our columns are major ID, university ID, and major name, as you can see in what has come out. Okay, and now the next step I guess we need is to connect to our Hive server. So we'll need to run this code as previously explained, and we just press enter. And usually, just anytime you're running this code, please go back to Docker, check your container, and make sure it's running, because a lot of times when you try to connect, you'll find errors and you won't know what's going on. But if you come to your container here, you'll find that your Hive server is actually switched off, as it can sometimes do that automatically, and you'll just have to come back here and switch it on again. Okay, so just to test our Hive, we'll need to show tables, and since we don't have any tables, it should just say okay and nothing to show. So we want to create tables now. So what we do is I've created a list of 4 tables which align with my CSVs. So these would be the columns for my CSV, and we just state if it's an integer, if it's a string, if it's a float, so on. And this is the name of the table that you're creating. So create external table, and now you give it the name of the table. You open brackets, you give it the name of the your columns basically for your table, and you just state the data type here, separated by a column. This comma usually just separates between um, columns of the table, so the columns basically, and um, here you can tell them the fields are terminated by this, which it will check in the CSV and adjust it so it can look in a proper structure in your database. So we'll be creating this table first. We can come here into our Hive and paste that. Okay, just to make sure everything's fine. Here's the location that it's getting the CSV from. So university list, and here the slash is because it's what's inside the university list. So we can do that now. We can create this one. Okay, so now it's been created. Now we have a table called university list, and now we can check is of course by showing tables and enter. It can show us that we have university list, and the pretty much the capital and small letters here, it's not case sensitive. Okay, so what we need to do now is create all the other tables. So we need to go back here. Alright, students. Let me just make sure you don't have any extra spaces. Let's run the students. Okay, worked perfectly. Now let's run the majors. Okay, now for the last one, let's run the faculty staff. Faculty staff. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we have our 4 tables, and just to give a brief overview of what we just did, we just set up an environment for our Docker. So by starting that, we pulled the name node and the data node images. We created a network for them to communicate, and we ran the images to create our containers. After that, we've created a directory in our data container in the name node called data, and we saved all 4 CSV files in data. And then we created a directory in our Hadoop called university, and we created 4 other subfolders in the main directory, one for each CSV, named just like the CSV. And then we pulled the Hive image and ran the Hive image to create the container. We initialized the schema, we started the meta service, and we've created our tables in Hive. And now to the last part, we'll be running our 15 SQL commands, and that should be it. Okay, so to the last part, we just need to run our SQL commands. So to do that, what we need to do is go back to our CMD. Okay, just make sure before we do anything, our Hive server is switched off. So what we need to do is go here and connect our Hive server. And after this part, we need to go back, after it running, we need to go back to our CMD now, and we need to run the code that actually connects us to our Hive server. Okay, there we go. So our first query, let's first run and select and view all our tables. So we can select all from, let's say, university underscore list. Okay, but before we do that, okay, so just now we just need to run one more code before we run this code, and that is just to set our headers to true so that you can see the data as it comes out on from Hive. Okay, so we can just delete this now. Let's run our code, and there. Okay, so now let's start with our first SQL command. Let's select all from university underscore list. Let's give it a semicolon, and here we should be able to view all our data in the university list. There we go. As you can see, you have university ID, university name, location, established year, number of students, and the number of faculties. Now let's select all from students. Here we can see our student IDs, the student university ID, the student name, student major, and the enrolled courses therein. Okay, now let's select all from majors. We can see our major IDs, university ID, and the major name. Okay, and then we need to do select all from faculty underscore staff. Actually, that's not case sensitive, so we shouldn't worry about that. Okay, there we go. So these were our first 4 commands. Now let's move on. Okay, now let's select all from university underscore list. Let's give it a condition where, let's say, the established year is greater than 2000. Okay. So it's not giving me anything. Okay, actually, why don't we just check what we have here? So all of our universities are actually established before the year 2000. So that's why it's not showing anything. So if we just run the same code and let's say greater than or equal to 2000, in that case we'll get 1 university. And if we do the same thing but we say, let's say, less than 2000, we should be able to get the rest. Okay, so let's run some more codes. Let's look at all the total students in all the universities that we have. So we would need to select count, so we need to count all students as total students. Let's just do that. Students, because I'm not sure we can have a space at this part. Actually, we can, I think. Total students from students. That should work. Oh, it did not actually work. Missing EOF add students near total. Yeah, okay, so we cannot have a space here. So what we can do, we can just do this and do that. Okay, so the total number of students is 30, and this is actually the data that we have. Okay, so next let's check our faculty. Maybe let's see all our faculty members that have years of experience greater than 10. So we can select, let's look at our rows in faculty. You can actually check that from here. We have our staff ID, university ID. Let's look at the things at the end. We have, yeah, so we just need our, maybe the staff ID, the staff name. Yeah, staff ID, staff name, department, years of experience. Okay, let's go. Select staff ID, staff name, department, I think, yeah, and then years of experience from faculty underscore staff. Wait, or did we call it? Yeah, it was from faculty underscore staff, where years of experience is greater than 10. Okay, that should work. Actually, alias or column reference, years of experience, possible column, or staff ID, university. Okay, so it's giving us the possible. Okay, years of experience. And how did we spell it? Years of experience. Oh, okay, got it. Where years of experience. Okay, I don't know why that did not work, but let's try it again. Okay, so there it is. That's the problem. Okay. Okay, so here, these are all our, we actually had 30, so as you can see, as Professor 1 and 2 didn't make it because I guess they had 5 years of experience or maybe less than 10. So here are all our faculty members with more than 10 years of experience. Okay, next we can select maybe certain students from a university. So let's say select student ID. What else do we have in students? So we can actually check here without opening the. Okay, so we have the student ID, university ID, we have the student name. Let's get the name and the major. Okay, ID, let's get the, sorry. So is it student name? Yeah. Student name. Let's get the major. Where, so let's say in a certain university. So it wouldn't be where, what am I doing? Okay, so select student ID, student name, major from students, obviously, where university ID equals, let's say, 15. Yeah, since we have 30, I think we have here around, not sure how many universities we have, but let's say, okay, let's give it something closer, maybe number 5. Okay. Okay, so all the people in university number 5 are studying mathematics, and here are their IDs: 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so let's move on to our next query. Okay, we've done 4 creates, we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we've done around 10. Okay, let's do some more. So let's select major, and then count all student count from students. Okay, yeah, and then let's group by major. That should do it. Okay, so the major biology, we have 6 students. Computer science, we have 6 students. Economics, we have 6 students. And if you see, these are probably 5, so 6 times 5 is 30, and these are our 30 students divided by major. Okay, so let's move on to maybe something with more code. Okay, so let's try to find the oldest university. So let's do select university name. Okay, and the established year from university underscore list. Okay, let's order by the established year. Okay, spelling mistakes. Okay, and let's give it ascending. And let's limit. So our oldest university is Central University, that was established in the year 1900. Now let's select all from universities and let's make sure this is true. University underscore list. Our oldest university is in fact Central University, as we've gotten here in the year 1900. Okay, so let's do another different coding maybe. So let's select distinct. So this will remove all replicas. Major name from majors. Okay, so we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we have 15. Major names, as you can see, none of them are repeated. So this is what distinct actually does, and makes sure there are no replicas. Okay, let's run a more complicated code where we can join. So we will need to select. Okay, let's do this part first because this is how I remember doing it. I'll definitely join and then give it a name. So I'll always use, since we're getting things from the faculty staff and from university, so we need to join both. So we'd say from faculty underscore staff join. Oh, faculty staff, let's give it a name just for, so we don't have to write faculty staff every time. Okay, and then we join it with university underscore list. Let's call that U, and then we'd say on, and we'd say how they're connected. So let's go f dot university ID, of course, that's how they're connected. University ID is equal to U dot university ID. Actually, it doesn't matter that it's no. Okay, so what we need to select, we need to select the staff name. Let's go staff name, so that would be f dot staff name, and we would like to get the f dot department and which university they're working in, so that would be U dot university name. Okay, that should do it. Yep, that should do it. There we go. Okay, so we have Professor 1, he's in computer science and he works in Central University. We have Professor 2, whose department is biology and is in Eastside University. We have Professor 3, economics in Westside Institute. I have one more a bit complicated code, so I've actually copied it down. Now we don't have to type it. Okay, maybe it's not saved here. Okay, there we go. So here what we're doing is we're selecting the student name and the major name, not just the major ID, and the university name from students joining majors on S. So S is the student major equals to the major's major name, and you will join that with university list to be able to get the university name here. U on M dot university ID equals U dot university ID. So let's take that copied. Okay, let's try to run it here. Okay, let's paste that. Now let's run. Okay, since it's a bit more complicated, it took more time. So now we have the student name, the major name, and the university name. So data from 3 different tables all in one query. I hope that was clear. I hope you've been able to follow up with what I did. And just an overview of our folders now, since we're done with the queries. Oh, actually we're not done with the queries. Let me just do some more. We can actually update also. So we can update a certain table. Let's say university underscore list. Okay, we can set the number of students. Let's set that equals to 500, where university ID equals, now let's check our data here in the, we can do it from here, but since we have the code already listed, we don't want to delete that. And let's open here. Okay, so let's pick one. So here it's 3000 in the East Side University. So ID number 2, let's set from 3000 to 2500. Okay, where an ID equals to 2, and let's just do that. Let's update and let's see how it goes. So, oh, it failed. Using transaction attempt to update does not support these operations. Okay, so we can't update here, but I will try that one more time. Okay, for some reason I attempted to run that one more time, but we're not apparently not able to do any update here or delete. So maybe if I try to, okay, so that would be, okay, execute name node HDFS DFS S dash R, I think, yeah. Okay, there we go. This is our tree structure for what we did. We have 3 copies of all except for this one, the majors that we changed to make as a 4 replications. And one last thing I also want to show you in Hive. Okay, so to go through any structure of the tables that we've created, all we need to do is just go describe university underscore list. There we go. This in return shows us all the column, all our columns, and the data type next to it. I think that was the only thing I had missing now. And thank you for bearing with me. I guess we're done, and thank you for your patience. Hope everything is clear.